It was a crisp autumn morning in Seattle, the kind where the rain hangs in the air like a promise, heavy and inevitable. The city was alive with its usual rhythm, the distant hum of ferries on Puget Sound, the chatter of early commuters clutching their umbrellas, and the perpetual aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafting from every corner cafe. I, Detective Alex Harlan, had been with the Seattle Police Department for 15 years, a veteran of the force who'd seen it all, or so I thought. From the gritty underbelly of petty thefts in Pioneer Square to the chilling precision of cold-blooded murders in the high-rises of Belltown, I'd built my reputation on logic, hard evidence, and the unyielding tick of the clock. Time was my ally. It marched forward, leaving trails I could follow. But this case, the one I now call Tomorrow's Coffee, shattered that illusion. It forced me to question the very fabric of reality, where past and future tangled like vines in a forgotten garden. Let me take you through it, step by step, from the moment my phone buzzed and upended my world. That morning, I was at my desk in the precinct, a cluttered corner office overlooking the gray expanse of Elliott Bay. The room was a testament to my disorganized efficiency. Stacks of case files teetering on the edge of collapse, yellow legal pads scrawled with half-formed theories, and a bulletin board pinned with photos of suspects and crime scenes that blurred together after too many late nights. My black coffee, strong, no frills, sat steaming in a chipped mug emblazoned with the department's faded logo. It was 9:15 a.m., and I was reviewing notes on a string of burglaries in Capitol Hill. The thieves had a pattern, hitting high-end apartments during happy hour, slipping in through fire escapes like ghosts. I was piecing together surveillance stills when my phone vibrated harshly on the desk, the screen lighting up with Sergeant Maria Ramirez's name. Her voice, usually steady as a metronome, carried an edge of unease that set my instincts tingling. "Harlan, you need to haul ass to Technova Labs on 5th Avenue, she said, her words clipped and urgent. "We've got a dead body. Looks like poisoning. Victim's Dr. Elias Thorne, lead scientist there. Big name in quantum tech. Witnesses say he keeled over after his morning coffee, but the security footage, it's showing someone tampering with the pot after he was already dead." I paused, my pen hovering over the notepad. The ink blot spread like a tiny crime scene of its own. "After? That doesn't track, Ramirez. Poison can't work retroactively. Are we talking about a doctored tape? Or some kind of optical illusion?" "That's why it's your problem now," she replied, a hint of exasperation creeping in. "The scene's secured, but it's weird as hell. Forensics is en route, and the ME's already there. Move." I grabbed my trench coat from the back of my chair, the worn leather creaking as I shrugged it on. Seattle's weather demanded layers, and today was no exception. A chill wind off the Sound promised to turn the drizzle into a downpour. Weaving through the bullpen, I nodded to a few colleagues. Detective Jenkins buried in paperwork, his desk a fortress of folders. Officer Lee nursing a hangover from last night's stakeout, his eyes bloodshot and unfocused. "Rough one, Lee," I muttered as I passed. He grunted. "Stakeout went south. Suspect never showed. Just me and a thermos of Bad Joe." Outside, the rain had started, a light drizzle that slicked the sidewalks and blurred the skyscrapers. I slid into my unmarked sedan, an aging Ford with a dashboard littered with empty coffee cups and case files. The engine turned over with a reluctant cough, and I merged into the flow of traffic, the wipers slapping rhythmically against the windshield. The drive to Technova Labs took 20 minutes through snarled traffic, giving me time to mull over Ramirez's words. Poison after death? Sounded like a glitch in the footage or a misdirection. Maybe the tamperer was planting evidence to frame someone else, or perhaps it was a botched attempt on another target. but my gut told me this wasn't a simple frame job. Teknova was a hub for cutting-edge research. Their work in quantum computing had made headlines, attracting investors and, inevitably, rivals. Thorne's death could be corporate espionage gone lethal. Teknova Labs loomed like a glass monolith in the heart of downtown, its facade reflecting the stormy sky and distorted waves. The company was a darling of the tech world, specializing in quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and experimental physics, fields that made my liberal arts degree feel woefully inadequate. Security was tight. I flashed my badge at the lobby guard, a burly man with a tablet who eyed me suspiciously before buzzing me through. His name tag read Marcus, and he had the build of a retired linebacker, scars on his knuckles suggesting a past in less savory professions. "Detective Harlan, SPD Homicide," I said, "here for the Thorne incident." He nodded curtly, scanning my badge with a handheld device. "Third floor, elevators to your left. Don't touch anything you don't need to." The place buzzed with controlled chaos. Uniforms cordoning off areas with yellow tape, forensics techs in white suits, dusting surfaces with fine powders, and shell-shocked employees, whispering in clusters near the water cooler. Their faces were a mix of grief and fear, eyes darting, hands wringing. I caught snippets of conversation. Elias was brilliant. Who would do this? And the project, it's falling apart now. The body was in the employee break room on the third floor, a sterile space with fluorescent lights, casting harsh shadows, vending machines stocked with energy drinks and protein bars, and a high-end coffee station that looked like it belonged in a gourmet cafe. Dr. Elias Thorne lay slumped over a laminate table, his wiry frame contorted in the final throes of agony. Mid-50s, salt and pepper hair disheveled, glasses askew on a face frozen in a grimace of surprise and pain. A spilled mug lay beside him, its dark contents pooling on the floor like accusatory ink. The air carried the acrid scent of burnt coffee, mixed with something sharper, death's metallic tang, overlaid with the faint bitterness of almonds, a hallmark of cyanide. Dr. Lena Voss, the medical examiner, was kneeling nearby, her gloved hands methodically photographing the scene with a digital camera. Voss was a no-nonsense professional in her 40s, with sharp features framed by a practical bob haircut and a reputation for precision. We'd crossed paths on dozens of cases, from drive-by shootings in Rainier Valley to overdoses in the homeless encampments under I-5. Her insights had cracked more than a few, and she had a way of cutting through the bullshit with a single arched eyebrow. "Harlan," she greeted without looking up, her voice muffled slightly by her mask. Time of death estimated at 8:19 a.m. Classic cyanide indicators, frothing at the mouth, cyanosis around the lips and fingernails, the works. Convulsions hit hard and fast, rapid heartbeat failure, leading to asphyxiation. He took a sip from that mug at 8:17, according to eyewitnesses. 2 minutes later, lights out. I crouched beside her, careful not to disturb the scene, the knees of my slacks brushing the cold linoleum. Black coffee, no additives? Any chance it was spiked elsewhere? "Confirmed," she said, straightening up and peeling off her gloves with a snap. "Straight from the pot over there. No tampering evident on the mug itself, but we'll swab everything. The pot's half full. Looks untouched since. Toxicology will confirm, but preliminary field test on the spill is positive for cyanide. Low-tech strip turned blue." The coffee maker was a sleek Breville model, glass pot gleaming under the lights like a mocking trophy. Grounds in the filter basket suggested a fresh brew, dark and aromatic. I made a mental note. Colombian roast, Thorne's favorite, per the label on a nearby canister labeled Elias's private stash, hands off. The canister was sealed with a twist lid, no signs of forced entry. Any other ingestion points? Food, meds? Maybe he popped a pill that interacted badly? Voss shook her head, packing her kit with efficient movements. Stomach contents will tell during autopsy, but witnesses say he hadn't eaten yet. Routine guy. Coffee first, always. No meds on him. But we'll check his desk for prescriptions. Blood work might show anomalies, but this screams deliberate poisoning. I stood, surveying the room. No windows to speak of, just blank walls painted an institutional beige. 2 doors, one to the hallway, bustling with foot traffic, the other to an adjacent conference area, currently empty. Cameras in the corners, red lights blinking steadily, capturing every angle. Security footage? Being pulled now, a uniform officer chimed in, a young kid named Ortiz with a fresh academy haircut. But heads up, detective, it's bizarre. Like something out of a sci-fi flick. I turned my attention to the witnesses, sequestered in the conference room. 3 of them. Mia Chen, Thorne's research assistant, Raj Patel, a lab technician, and Victor Lang, the CEO. They sat around a polished oak table, faces pale, coffee cups untouched in front of them. Ironic, given the circumstances. The room smelled of stale air and anxiety, the air conditioning humming softly. Starting with Chen, a petite woman in her late 20s with dark hair pulled into a tight bun and eyes rimmed with exhaustion from what looked like chronic late nights. She fidgeted with a pen, clicking it nervously, the sound echoing like a metronome of guilt or grief. Ms. Chen, walk me through the morning, I said, notebook in hand, flipping to a fresh page. She took a shaky breath, her voice trembling slightly. Dr. Thorne arrived at 8 a.m. sharp, like every day. He was a creature of habit, brewed his own coffee, Colombian black. No one else touches it. He had his own stash in that canister. He ground the beans fresh, filled the machine with water from the filtered tap, and started the brew. By 8:05, it was done, filling the room with that rich smell. He worked at his desk for a bit, typing away on his computer, probably reviewing data from last night's simulations. Then he came back at 8:17, poured a mug, sat down to check emails on his tablet. Mid-sip, he started gasping, clutching his chest. His face turned red, then blue, foam at the mouth. We tried CPR. Raj did compressions. I called 911, but it was too late. He was gone before the paramedics arrived. Patel, a stocky man in his 30s with a neatly trimmed beard and wire-rimmed glasses, nodded along, his hands clasped tightly on the table. I was grabbing a snack from the vending machine. Those peanut butter bars, you know? Saw the whole thing. No one near the pot before him. Thorne was paranoid about his routine. Said it kept his mind sharp for the quantum work. He even joked about it sometimes, calling it his temporal anchor or something weird like that. And after the incident? I pressed, my pen scratching across the paper. Lang interjected, his voice smooth but strained, like silk over gravel. He was in his early 60s, tall and silver-haired, dressed in a tailored suit that screamed boardroom power and old money. His watch was a Rolex, subtle but flashy. That's where it gets inexplicable. Our security is top tier, cameras everywhere, no blind spots. At 8:45 a.m., 26 minutes after Thorne collapsed, the footage captures someone entering the break room. Lab coat, hat, mask, face hidden completely. They pour something from a vial into the pot, stir it with a spoon, and slip out. But Thorne had already drunk from it clean, or so we thought. The pot wasn't touched between his pour and his death. I leaned forward, the chair creaking under my weight. Show me the video. We relocated to the security office. a dim room packed with monitors and humming servers that cast an eerie blue glow. The tech, a young guy named Kyle with tattoos peeking from his sleeves and a nose ring, queued up the footage with quick keystrokes. Crystal clear. Timestamp 8:45:03 a.m. The figure glides in, movements deliberate and practiced. Gloved hand uncaps a small glass vial, tips clear liquid into the pot. A quick stir with a plastic spoon from the counter, then exit stage left through the hallway door. The pot sat there, innocuous, as if mocking us. Kyle rewound and played it in slow motion, zooming in on the vial. Unmarked, but the liquid was viscous, not water. "But the poison couldn't have been in the coffee when Thorne drank," I murmured, rewinding the clip again. "Unless the footage is edited. Have you checked for loops or deepfakes?" Kyle shook his head, his piercings glinting. "Systems air-gapped, no external access. Timestamps are blockchain verified. It's real, man. Freaky, but real." Lang spread his hands in a gesture of helplessness. "Exactly. Maybe it's unrelated. Maybe the tampering was for someone else, and Thorne was hit another way. Pill, injection, even a patch on his skin. He had enemies in the field, you know. Rivals jealous of his breakthroughs. But that didn't sit right. The almond scent lingered in my mind, a direct link to cyanide. I requested copies of the footage on a USB drive and excused myself to coordinate with forensics. The rest of the morning blurred into procedure, bagging evidence, the mug, the pot, the canister, swabbing surfaces for prints and residues, interviewing peripheral staff like the janitor who cleaned the night before and the receptionist who'd seen Thorne arrive cheerful, briefcase in hand. No anomalies there, but one admin mentioned Thorne seemed distracted lately, muttering about temporal paradoxes in meetings. Thorne's office was a treasure trove, stacks of papers on quantum entanglement, temporal mechanics, equations that looked like hieroglyphs to me, scrawled on whiteboards and notepads. His project, Chronos Bridge, dominated the files. Blueprints for devices that bent time, emails with collaborators across the globe. Tensions simmered in the correspondence. Arguments with Lang over funding cuts. A bitter fallout with a former colleague, Dr. Serena Hale, who'd stormed out 6 months ago after a patent dispute over entanglement protocols. Hale now worked for a competitor in Silicon Valley. Motive? Revenge or theft of ideas? By afternoon, tox reports trickled in from the lab via email on my phone. Cyanide in Thorne's bloodstream, lethal dose of about 200 milligrams, enough to kill in minutes. Traces in the remaining coffee in the pot. But here's the kicker. Residue in the spilled mug showed clean coffee, no poison detectable. Yet the brew in Thorne's system matched the pot's composition, right down to the roast profile and trace minerals from the water. How? The poison appeared only after 8:45 in the pot, but affected a drink taken before. It was like the toxin had teleported backward. I grabbed a late lunch at a nearby diner, a greasy spoon called Joe's, where the coffee was terrible, but the booths private and the waitresses discreet. Nursing a cup, black of course, I sketched timelines on a napkin, the paper absorbing grease from my fries. 8 on cock. Thorne brews clean coffee in pot. A. 8:17. Drinks. 8:19. Dead. 8:45. Tampering. It was a loop that defied causality. My mind wandered to old cases. Poisonings via slow-release capsules in food, contaminated inhalers, but nothing fit. I called Voss for an update. "Autopsy confirms cyanide ingestion via liquid," she said over the line. Background noise of saws and clinking tools. No other entry points, no injections, no skin absorption. Stomach had fresh coffee, undigested. It's as if the poison materialized in his cup mid-sip. Back at Technova, I delved deeper into suspects, pulling employee records and alibis. Chen had access to Thorne's schedule, but her alibi was solid, logged into her workstation from 7:45 a.m., keystrokes timestamped. Patel was new, hired 3 months ago from a pharma company, with a background in chemistry. Red flag. He claimed he was in the main lab running simulations, corroborated by access logs and a co-worker who vouched for him. But his resume showed a gap. 2 years unexplained. Traveling, he said when pressed, but his eyes shifted. Lang? He was in a meeting until 8:30 with investors via Zoom, but his office adjoined the break room via a private door, keycard only. Motive? Thorne's emails revealed he was planning to jump ship to a rival firm, taking Chronos Tech with him. Lang stood to lose millions in IP, not to mention his reputation. A search of Lang's office found nothing obvious, but a hidden drawer revealed financial records showing Technova near collapse. Thorne's defection might finish it. That evening, rain hammered the windows as I returned to my small Queen Anne apartment. Surrounded by criminology books and worn sci-fi novels, I reviewed Thorne's notes at my kitchen table, unease settling in. Chronos Bridge, bridging temporal states via quantum entanglement. Pages of math, diagrams of wormholes, prototypes sketched in frantic pencil. Thorne claimed he could send small objects, or their states, backward in time. Not full-blown time travel, but displacement of matter, or information by hours, maybe days. He demoed it, an apple vanishing from a chamber and appearing 10 minutes earlier on a table, bite marks intact. A chill gripped me as I read further. What if the coffee was part of an experiment? Tomorrow's coffee, Thorne had jotted in the margins, a pet name for his test runs, where future changes influenced the past. He described entangling liquids, coffee in one pot linked to another, changes propagating retroactively. Causality preserved via observer collapse, he wrote. It sounded like madness, but the math was endorsed by peers in peer-reviewed journals. Sleep evaded me that night. Dreams of clocks running backward, coffee cups refilling themselves, Thorne's grimace echoing in reverse. By dawn, I was back at the precinct, guzzling more coffee and requesting a warrant for Thorne's private lab. Ramirez raised an eyebrow, her coffee mug steaming in her hand. Quantum what? This better not be a wild goose chase, Harlan. The captain's breathing down my neck. It's the only thread that makes sense, I insisted. Or doesn't, depending on how you look at time. She signed off with a sigh. Fine. But bring me back some of that fancy tech coffee if it's clean. Returning to Technova, warrant in hand, Lang met me at the door, his polish cracking into unease. His tie was slightly askew, eyes shadowed. Detective, this is highly sensitive. Government contracts, DARPA's involved, national security implications. Save it, I cut in, handing him the papers. We're sealing the lab, no one in or out. Thorne's private workspace was a cavern of wonders. Humming quantum processors the size of refrigerators, glowing particle accelerators pulsing with energy, and in the center, the temporal displacement unit, a sleek chamber resembling a high-tech oven, wired to banks of computers with screens displaying wave functions and probability curves. The air hummed with electricity, a faint ozone scent. Chen, reluctantly summoned, explained, her voice hushed, as if the machines could hear. Dr. Thorne's breakthrough was in quantum entanglement applied to macroscopic objects, she said, gesturing to the chamber. Pair two items at the quantum level, atoms synced, and changing one affects the other instantly, even across distances. or time if you stabilize the wormhole with exotic matter simulations. Across time? I echoed, skepticism warring with fascination. I paced the room, examining a duplicate coffee pot on a side table, identical to the break room's. She nodded, adjusting her glasses. Limited. Energy costs skyrocket beyond ours. But he demoed it last week. Entangled 2 apples. Bit into one at time t+10 minutes. The other showed the bite at t+0, as if it had always been there. Retrocausality without paradox. The timeline adjusts. My mind raced. And the coffee? Was the break room pot entangled? Chen hesitated, glancing at the door. Thorne used everyday objects for tests. The break room coffee pot was entangled with a duplicate in here. Harmless, he said, tracking temperature shifts or chemical compositions as proof of concept. But if someone added poison to the lab duplicate after the fact, the state change could propagate backward. The pieces clicked like a lock tumbling open. I had techs pull the device logs, their fingers flying over keyboards. Activation at 8:45 a.m. Displacement protocol initiated. Backward vector 30 minutes to 8:15 a.m. Target: liquid sample from entangled pot. Lab to pot A break room. Energy spike matched. User ID: V Lang, Victor Lang. We ran a simulation to verify. Entangled 2 water samples in beakers. Added blue dye to one post-event. The other turned color instantly, as if pre-dyed. No residue transfer, just state change. Quantum magic, or science indistinguishable from it. The reconstruction unfolded like a nightmare puzzle. Lang, the killer, had premeditated it meticulously. Motive: Thorne's defection, set to be announced at the 9:00 a.m. board meeting. Emails confirming a signed offer from Hale's firm. Lang knew about the entanglement. Thorne had shared it in confidence during a late-night brainstorming session, boasting over whiskey. Timeline refined. 8:00 a.m. Thorne brews clean coffee in pot. 8:17 pours and drinks. Safe at that instant. Dies at 8:19, chaos ensues. Employees rush in, calls to emergency services. At 8:45, post-death, Lang slips into the lab. Alibi, checking emails. During the pandemonium, logs show his computer active, but no keystrokes. He accesses the duplicate pot B, entangled with A. Pours cyanide, sourced from lab chemicals easy for a CEO with access, into B. Activates the unit, propagating the state change backward to 8:15 a.m. Quantum weirdness. The poison appears in pot A retroactively, as if always there from the brew. When Thorne drank at 8:17, it was poisoned by the future act. The tampering footage in the break room? A red herring. Lang, disguised, adding a harmless saline after the fact to create confusion, knowing the real kill was temporal. Causal loop? The death enables the addition. Chaos covers Lang's movements, but the motive predates it. Perfect crime. Poison added after death. Footage proves it. But the true mechanism hidden in quantum shadows. To confirm, we searched Lang's home. Warrant rushed through. Hidden in his safe. A vial residue matching the cyanide. Notes on Chronos stolen from Thorne's files. Patel's gap was a false lead. He was clean, just backpacking in Asia. Chen? Innocent, though she'd suspected Lang's jealousy. Confronting Lang in interrogation at the precinct, the room stark with one-way glass and buzzing fluorescence. His facade crumbled. Cuffed to the table, he sweated under the lights. It was ingenious, he confessed after hours of denial, his voice breaking. Time itself as alibi. Thorne was going to ruin me. Take the tech, the glory. I entangled the pots weeks ago with his unwitting help. Who'd believe poison from the future? Evidence sealed it. His fingerprints on the vial, recovered from lab trash, overlooked in haste. Logs showing unauthorized access. Financial docs proving desperation. Lang got life without parole, pleading down from death penalty. The feds swooped in, classifying Chronos tech as a potential weapon. Temporal sabotage could rewrite history, they said. Chen and Patel were cleared. Red herrings in a temporal maze. Hale was interviewed remotely. No involvement, just schadenfreude. As for me, I traded my drip maker for instant packets. No entanglements, no echoes from tomorrow. But in quiet moments, staring at the rain-slicked streets from my window, coffee cooling in my hand, I ponder. How many unsolved cases hide in time's shadows? The clock ticks forward, but now I know. It can lie, bend, even break. And in Seattle's endless drizzle, the future's promise feels heavier than ever.